You shouldn't be in the family section, my aunt hissed, physically moving me from the front row at my father's funeral. My stepmother nodded in agreement. Then the estate lawyer stepped forward with a sealed envelope. My name is Claire Morrison. I'm 38 years old. I work as a graphic designer for nonprofits, creating materials for causes I care about. I'm the product of my father's first marriage. My mother died when I was 12, and my father remarried within a year to Patricia, a woman who came with 2 children from her previous marriage. Growing up, I always felt like the child from before, the reminder of a past Patricia wanted to erase. I was tolerated, but never fully included in the new family they built. Tyler and Madison got the family vacations, the college funds, the attention. I got polite distance. I moved out at 22, built my own life, stayed in contact with my father through weekly coffee meetings at our favorite diner. The family treated my career as a hobby compared to Tyler's position at a hedge fund and Madison's law degree. I wasn't wealthy or connected like my step-siblings, who inherited Patricia's family money and social standing. But I had something they didn't expect. I had my father's love and years of documented conversations proving our close bond. If you've ever felt like an outsider in your own family, especially after a parent remarried, hit subscribe. Tell me in the comments if you know what it's like to be treated like you don't belong. Click like or hype before we continue. Let's go. The funeral was held at an expensive funeral home Patricia had selected without consulting me. The air was thick with the scent of lilies and expensive perfume. I arrived respectfully dressed in a simple black dress, carrying a framed photo of my father and me from my childhood, both of us laughing at a county fair. Patricia greeted me at the entrance with a cold stare. "Oh, you came." My step-siblings, Tyler and Madison, stood nearby, whispering audibly about how inappropriate it was that I wore my mother's pearl necklace. "Tacky," Madison muttered loud enough for me to hear. I tried to take a seat in the front row where daughters sit at their father's funeral. My Aunt Carol, Patricia's sister, physically took my arm and guided me backward. "Sweetheart, you should sit with the cousins," she said firmly. "This section is for his real family." I felt my face burn. "I am his daughter." Patricia stepped in immediately, her voice sharp. "Claire, don't make a scene. My children just lost their father figure. Show some respect." Madison added behind her mother, loud enough for the gathering crowd to hear, "Some people just don't understand boundaries." During the service, Tyler gave the eulogy. He talked about our father, but only as it related to him. Our father taught his children about business, about integrity, about family values. He never once mentioned me. Not once. At the reception afterward, I tried to place my framed childhood photo on the memorial table, alongside the others. Patricia removed it immediately, her fingers tight on the frame. "We've curated this display professionally, family photos only." My Uncle Robert pulled me aside near the refreshment table. "You should probably leave early," he said quietly. "Patricia is planning estate discussions, and it's, well, complicated." I realized in that moment they were planning to cut me out entirely. Then I overheard Patricia talking to the funeral director near the hallway. "Send all remaining documentation to my attorney. Don't include the daughter from the first marriage. This doesn't concern her." The next day, I received a certified letter from Patricia's attorney. The paper was expensive, the letterhead intimidating. It stated that all estate matters were settled and my presence at any proceedings was not required. I called my father's longtime lawyer, the one I remembered from childhood, but the receptionist informed me that Patricia had already handled everything and claimed there was only one will. The door was closing fast. A week later, Tyler posted on social media about finally getting closure. The photo was from the funeral, a family portrait with Patricia, Tyler, Madison, and several relatives. I stared at it for a long time before I realized why it looked wrong. I was in that photo. I was standing right next to my father's portrait, but I'd been digitally removed, cropped out like I never existed. The comments flooded in. Extended family praised Patricia for holding the family together during such a difficult time. My cousin Jen texted me privately that night. "I can't believe they cropped you out. That's so messed up." But she didn't say it publicly. Nobody did. The third betrayal came when I drove by my father's house and saw a real estate sign in the yard. I called Patricia immediately. "You're selling the house?" She sounded annoyed that I'd called. "The children and I have decided to split the proceeds. It's what makes sense." "I have things in that house, my childhood belongings, photos of my mother." Patricia's voice was ice. "Everything in that house belongs to the estate now. If there's something specific you want, submit a written request to my attorney." I drove to the house anyway, used my old key. The locks had been changed. I stood on the porch of my childhood home, locked out. The neighbor, Mrs. Chen, came over looking uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, dear. Patricia had movers here 3 days ago. They took several boxes to a storage facility." I felt completely powerless. But something shifted in me that day. I stopped calling. I stopped pleading. I started documenting instead. Every text, every email, every cold interaction. I saved everything. And I waited for the formal estate meeting I knew had to happen eventually, no matter what Patricia claimed. What Patricia didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I had been my father's primary support during his final illness. Patricia claimed hospitals stressed her out too much, made her anxious, so I went instead. 3 times a week for 6 months, I sat beside my father's bed. We talked. We laughed. We made peace with his mortality. And I recorded our conversations on my phone. Dozens of voice memos I'd been compiling for a family history project I wanted to create. In several of these recordings from his final months, my father's voice was clear and deliberate. "I'm changing the will, Claire Bear. Patricia doesn't know yet. I've seen her true colors. I've seen how she treats you." Another recording from just 2 months before he died. "Promise me you won't let them bully you after I'm gone. Mr. Hendricks knows what to do. He has everything." I also had email exchanges where my father detailed concerns about Patricia's spending, her focus on appearances over substance, her treatment of me as invisible. I had hospital visitor logs from the hospice care facility. My name signed in 47 times over 6 months. Patricia's name appeared twice. Tyler and Madison never visited at all. I had text messages my father sent me during his illness. "You're the only one who really cares. Thank you for being here." What they assumed was a lonely, defeated outsider was actually the person holding all the cards. I wasn't preparing to fight. I was preparing to let them expose themselves completely before the truth destroyed their narrative. The call came from Mr. Hendricks on a Tuesday morning. He was my father's attorney of 30 years, elderly but sharp as ever. "Ms. Morrison, I need to meet with you before any formal proceedings. Can you come to my office this afternoon?" We sat in his book-lined office that smelled of leather and old paper. Mr. Hendricks folded his hands on his desk. "Your father updated his will 6 months before his death. He was very specific about his wishes, and very angry about how you'd been treated. He explained that Patricia believed she was operating under an old will from 15 years ago, one that split everything between her and her children. She had no idea what was coming. My advice," Mr. Hendricks said carefully, "is to remain silent. Let Patricia proceed with her plans. Let her show everyone exactly who she is. Then we'll show them what your father really wanted." Meanwhile, Patricia grew bolder by the day. She posted on social media about being finally free to make decisions about the family legacy. Tyler started driving my father's vintage Mustang, posting photos with captions like, "Inherited good taste." Madison moved into the master bedroom of the estate house and immediately began redecorating, posting before and after photos. 2 weeks after the funeral, Patricia threw what she called a celebration of life party at the house. I wasn't invited, but I saw the photos online. Expensive wine, laughter, people clearly not grieving. Extended family members started privately questioning the speed of everything. Mr. Hendricks collected screenshots of every post. He scheduled the official will reading and sent formal notices to all parties. Patricia's response came via email. "This is just a formality. Everything's already settled." The conference room at Mr. Hendricks's office was formal and intimidating. Dark mahogany table, leather chairs, the faint smell of coffee and furniture polish. Patricia arrived with Tyler and Madison, all three dressed in designer clothes and looking supremely confident. Patricia even brought her own attorney, a young woman in an expensive suit, who she introduced as being there to expedite matters. I sat alone on the opposite side of the table, wearing the same simple black dress from the funeral. Mr. Hendricks took his seat at the head of the table and opened a folder. "We're here to execute the last will and testament of Robert Morrison, dated 6 months ago." Patricia interrupted immediately, her voice sharp. "There must be a mistake. The will is from 2010, and it clearly states that the estate is to be divided between myself and the children." Mr. Hendricks didn't even look up. "Mrs. Morrison, this will supersedes all previous documents. It was properly witnessed and notarized." He began reading in his steady, professional voice. "I leave my entire estate, including the family home, all financial assets, and personal property, to my daughter, Claire Morrison." The room went completely silent. You could hear the air conditioning humming. Tyler stood up, his chair scraping loudly. "That's insane. Dad wouldn't do that. He wouldn't cut us out." Mr. Hendricks continued reading. "To Patricia Morrison, I leave the sum of $50,000, along with the furniture she personally purchased during our marriage." Patricia was shaking, her face white. He was confused. He was dying. She manipulated him. Mr. Hendricks slid a stack of documents across the polished table. Hospital visitor logs, Claire's name, over and over. Then he pressed play on a small recording device. My father's voice filled the room, strong and clear despite his illness. "I'm doing this because Patricia has shown me repeatedly that she married me for financial security, not love. My daughter Claire is the only one who has been there when I truly needed family." Patricia's attorney picked up the documents, reviewed them quickly, and leaned over to whisper in Patricia's ear. Tyler started crying, his perfect makeup running. "You poisoned him against us. You manipulated a sick man." I spoke for the first time, my voice steady and cold. "I didn't poison anyone. I just showed up, every single week, while you were all too busy." Mr. Hendricks added calmly, "Contesting this will would require proving undue influence. The evidence shows quite the opposite." Patricia and her children left the attorney's office in stunned silence. No dramatics, no shouting, just quiet shock and the sound of expensive heels clicking down the hallway. I remained behind with Mr. Hendricks, who handed me a set of keys. "Your father wanted you to have the house. He said it holds your history." Within 2 weeks, they moved out. Tyler returned the vintage Mustang, leaving the keys in the mailbox without a word. I found my childhood belongings exactly where Patricia had hidden them, in a storage unit she'd rented under her name, thinking I'd never find them. Boxes of photos, my mother's jewelry, my old art projects my father had saved. I moved back into the house slowly, room by room. I set up a memorial in my father's study with photos of him and my mother, photos of us through the years, keeping his memory alive the way he wanted. Extended family members began reaching out quietly, apologizing for believing Patricia's narrative. I didn't gloat, I didn't seek revenge or post triumphant messages online. I simply lived in the home my father wanted me to have, surrounded by the memories he'd protected for me. I spent evenings in his study, reading his books, sitting in his chair. The house felt like him, like home. The final reflection came to me one quiet evening as I looked at our photos on the wall. They thought being family meant showing up at the funeral, looking grief-stricken for the cameras, posting tributes online. My father taught me it means showing up every day before that, being present when it's hard, when it's inconvenient, when there's nothing to gain but time together. That's what he remembered. That's what he honored. If you've been excluded at a funeral or told you weren't real family, you know exactly how this pain feels. The erasure, the public humiliation, the assumption that you don't matter. Share your story in the comments about being treated like an outsider in your own family. Subscribe to connect with others who were erased by their families, then vindicated by the truth. Click hype to help this story reach others who desperately need to hear it. You're not alone. Your story has power. If you felt a connection to mine, please subscribe and share your journey in the comments below. Every hype you give this video helps empower someone else who's been through this. Thank you for being here and for listening to my story.